Welcome back to the C Block, or final section of this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast news. I'm Alaina Pinto. In Oklahoma, the deadline is nearing on collecting enough signatures to get the adult use legalization question on the ballot. That's also the state where there is a new law that goes into effect on January 1st of next year, requiring all physicians to take 6 hours of training courses before they can be certified medical practitioners. Kimmie Cannabis has more from Oklahoma.
I am Kimmie Cannabis from Can I Talk About It with the Oklahoma Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Back on August 6, 2025, the Oklahoma Responsible Cannabis Action, also known as ORCA, began gathering signatures for State Question 837, a critical initiative that could reshape Oklahoma's cannabis industry and protect small mom and pop businesses statewide. Now, with the November 4th, 5 p.m. deadline quickly approaching, it's crunch time. ORCA needs to collect 172,993 valid signatures to secure its spot on the 2026 ballot. And every single one counts. But remember, accuracy is everything. If there's even one mistake on a petition page, that entire form gets thrown out, and all those signatures are lost. So please let someone experienced handle the form to make sure it is filled out correctly. This measure is about keeping the heart of the Oklahoma cannabis industry alive, protecting local operators, ensuring fairness, and giving the people a voice in how this industry grows. Time is running out, so get out, sign, and share. Small mom and pop businesses across Oklahoma are depending on your support. That's it from Oklahoma. I'm Kimmie Cannabis. Peace, love, and all that good stuff.
One of the scariest facts about the cannabis industry is the amount of debt that many multi-state operators have to deal with, including notes that come due in 2026. One of those companies is Curaleaf, and this past week they prepared for that by getting a loan from one of the most cannabis-friendly banks to the industry, Needham Bank. Needham is a suburb of Boston, about 10 miles west of the state capital of Boston. Curaleaf was able to get an extension of their credit from $40 million to $100 million, extending the maturity to up to 5 years. Curaleaf's CFO, Ed Kramer, recognizes that, quote, "This is the first of its kind transaction of this scale in the cannabis industry and was backed by the direct support and strong conviction of our leaders in our business and future. It represents a significant step toward broader access to capital markets and signals progress toward establishing financial standards in a sector that has historically limited institutional participation." Unquote. Now, let's check on the publicly traded cannabis stocks with Doug Miller, who is always high on Wall Street.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's Cannabis Stock Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Curaleaf, one of the largest MSOs, is gearing up to report its next round of earnings on November 5th, and all eyes are on whether the company can keep that momentum alive. Investors will be watching for revenue growth, especially in newly opened markets like New York, and international sales, which have become a bright spot in recent quarters. Curaleaf last posted over $300 million in revenue, with margins improving. So the question is, can they sustain that pace in a slowing consumer environment? Analysts are also zeroing in on cash flow, debt management, and whether infused products like new Anthem Bold pre-rolls can boost revenue. With legalization hopes and regulatory shifts still in the spotlight, Curaleaf's guidance could set the tone for the entire cannabis sector. So let's see how the stock chart looks. It was trading around $2.86, and it dipped down on Friday. So we'll be watching how it sets up going into these earnings. And that is this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, I'm Doug Miller.
Did you know that the state of Nebraska only has one group of legislators? It's called a unicameral legislature, where only one single chamber or house where all the lawmaking powers live. They are the only state in America with this kind of system. And that's the system that Nebraskans for Medical Cannabis has been battling ever since voters passed a ballot measure last fall to decriminalize the plant medicine and establish a viable medicinal market. The head of that advocacy movement is Crista Eggers, a mother of two, who is watching how her state government is doing everything possible to launch a medical program that most lawmakers never wanted in the first place. Executive producer Jimmy Young caught up with this passionate advocate this week.
Thanks, Alaina. We're so happy and honored to have someone who has been instrumental in the advocacy movement in her state of Nebraska. Her name is Crista Eggers. It's Eggers, right? It's a hard
It's
G.
Eggers. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's correct.
Wanted to make sure I could get the Crista part very easily. So appreciate you taking the time. It seems whenever I have a story about Nebraska, you're quoted. So I knew that this was a good person to talk to. And this week, they're starting very slowly to distribute and award licenses, but even that has been a little painful. Can you give me a little background on what's happened over the last week in Nebraska?
Yeah. So in Nebraska, after voters passed medical cannabis ballot initiatives, those ballot initiatives put together the Medical Cannabis Commission. This commission consists of the current liquor control commissioners that serve on medical cannabis, and then the governor appointed two additional individuals to this commission. The commission is tasked and has the authority to regulate the dispensing, the growing, cultivation, manufacturing of cannabis for medical patients. So what they were up against a deadline of October 1st, on or before they were to start distributing licenses. What we saw them do this last week is they did move forward. The cultivator license application process was open. There were 39 applicants. They went ahead and they drew four in a lottery. Two of those individuals were awarded licenses and have accepted those licenses. At this point, we don't know if they're going to move forward with manufacturing. That's what they have said they're going to do. But the commission themselves is unfortunately very, very dysfunctional. We are seeing a huge amount of opposition from political forces, really strong arming this commission. And what is happening is not at all reflective of what voters passed. This commission is not listening. There was a public comment yesterday that happened in Lincoln regarding the rules and regulations they have set forth. And it's very clear that the rules and regulations they have proposed that will become law on December 7th, approximately, they violate the statute. They are in complete violation of the law. Voters, patients, the state, 71% of people spoke very, very clearly that they want medical cannabis. They want a comprehensive program. They do not want restrictions on the type of cannabis or the form of cannabis that it's available to them. And this commission, one time after another, has truly just stripped away the voter intent in this. So we're working very hard to really oppose what this commission is doing. Your guess is as good as mine whether they're going to move forward and make any changes, which the public comment was very strong that they need to make changes. I don't know if they do. I sure hope they do, because we are just really walking ourselves into, a program that is very segmented, a supply chain issue just from day one. There is not any experience on this commission. It is full of cannabis prohibitionists. So we're up against a lot, but just continuing to make sure that these people are held accountable. The voters put them in this position, and they answer to voters in what they're doing. And again, we're seeing them not do that right now.
And welcome to the world of legal cannabis in America, because the government, whether it be the feds, the states, or the towns, are doing everything they possibly can to make it as difficult as possible to survive, let alone launch in a state like Nebraska. And on top of that, your leaders, your governor and your attorney general specifically, has tried very hard to go against what the people wanted. And that bothers me as an American more than anything else, because the ballot box has always belonged to the people. And this issue brings people out more than any other issue, because everybody has an opinion about cannabis and how it should be used, regulated, and unfortunately, it falls on deaf ears with a lot of the other elected officials. However, you guys still have the vote in your hands, and you can take notes of everybody who's fighting you and work to get them removed, because that's the only thing that's can ever happen on this.
100%. We've got to pivot to elections. And, in the state of Nebraska, this issue has been going on for over a decade, where advocates, led the fight, went to the legislature year after year. We walked away empty-handed, no change in leadership. And that's why we pursued the ballot. It took us 3 times. We were the first year overwhelmingly successful, made the ballot, and a Supreme Court lawsuit later tossed us. And so, we've continued at this, but the process of going to the ballot, thankfully Nebraska has that, because I can tell you that there's no way that we would have legalized medical cannabis if we could not go to the ballot. And what an important right that we have.